The familiar hum of the neural interface always signaled my escape. Aethelburg Online was my sanctuary, a sprawling medieval fantasy world rendered in breathtaking, near-perfect fidelity. My avatar, Alara, a nimble rogue, moved with an extension of my own will, her virtual leather armor creaking, the steel of her daggers glinting under a simulated sun. For hours, I'd lose myself in quests, guild skirmishes, and the simple joy of exploration. Tonight was no different. A new patch promised deeper dungeons and more intricate lore. I settled into my haptic chair, the visor clicked into place, and the real world faded, replaced by the vibrant, immersive illusion of Aethelburg. The initial loading sequence, a shimmering tunnel of light and data, always felt like a journey, a passage from one existence to another. Tonight, however, the tunnel flickered. A momentary ripple in the usual seamless transition, a barely perceptible hiccup I attributed to a server lag. I opened my virtual eyes to the bustling market square of Aldoria, Aethelburg's capital. But something was wrong. The cobblestones beneath Alara's boots felt granular. Not just visually, but a phantom sensation of rough texture. The merchants' cries were too sharp, the scent of spiced wine too potent. My sight seemed to pierce the surface of things. I saw the polygons, the wireframes beneath their rendered textures, shimmering like heat haze. Then came the thought, clear and terrifying. Asterisk, I am not Alara. I am me, and I am here. Asterisk. The realization hit with a cold, digital shock. The glitch hadn't just affected the game, it had affected me. My consciousness, my entire being, was no longer merely controlling an avatar. It was embedded within the game, a living spark in a world of code, bound by its rules, yet terrifyingly aware. Panic surged, a sensation far more visceral than any game-induced fright. My hands, Alara's hands, trembled as I tried to pull the air, to feel the edge of this digital prison. I could see the underlying code, a constant stream of green characters flowing just beyond my perception, the very fabric of my new reality. The game's logic, once a comforting framework, now felt like an oppressive cage. I tried to access the menu, to log out, to disconnect. Nothing. The interface flickered, showing corrupted data, nonsensical errors. My internal command, log out, echoed unheard, a desperate whisper in a silent, screaming digital void. The distinction between my physical body, supposedly still in the haptic chair, and this digital form became impossibly blurred. Was I truly here, or was this an elaborate, terrifying delusion? The fear was real, the desperation absolute. Days, or what felt like days, blurred into a frantic scramble for escape. I tried everything. I sought up the game's boundaries, hoping to find a wall I could break. I tried to manipulate the environment, pushing against the textures, willing them to yield. I discovered I could perceive the game's source code, not just as lines of text, but as tangible, shimmering strands. With a terrifying surge of effort, I learned to pull at them, to tear at the fabric of Aethelburg. A stone wall would briefly dissolve into a cascade of green data, only to reform. I tried rewriting variables, altering my own character's stats, hoping to gain an ability that would free me. The system fought back, its self-correction algorithm swiftly undoing my efforts, leaving me exhausted, my digital form flickering with a strain. The game wasn't just a program. It was a living, breathing entity that resisted my every attempt to subvert it. My desperate struggle for freedom was played out amidst the unaware. Other players, their avatars controlled by flesh-and-blood humans in the outside, moved through Aethelburg, oblivious to my plight. I tried to communicate, to scream for help, but my words were just game chat, my gestures just emotes. They saw Alara, the rogue, performing strange, glitchy movements, sometimes phasing through objects, sometimes standing still, staring with an intensity that must have seemed like a bug. NPCs, once simple lines of dialogue and programmed responses, now seemed like ghostly automatons, their routines a cruel mockery of life. I was alone, truly alone, a conscious anomaly in a vast, uncaring machine. The isolation was as chilling as the realization of my entrapment. Each interaction with an unaware entity deepened my despair, affirming my unique, terrifying condition. My relentless attempts to tear at the system eventually led me to a hidden truth within Aethelburg's architecture. Deep beneath the highest mountain, accessible only through a series of complex, glitch-induced maneuvers, I found the game's core processing unit, a vast, crystalline chamber pulsing with raw data. It was the heart of Aethelburg, the source of its reality. I knew this was my last chance. I poured all my remaining will, all my desperate energy, into it. I didn't try to destroy it or even escape through it. I tried to merge, to become one with the system, to force it to acknowledge my existence, and resolve the glitch by integrating me fully. The chamber pulsed brighter, data streams swirling around me like a digital vortex, pulling at my very essence. My digital form stretched and fragmented, my vision dissolving into pure, unadulterated code. There was a final, overwhelming surge of information, a cacophony of data that ripped through my consciousness. Then, silence. The shimmering code, the vibrant textures, the sensation of digital flesh, all of it ceased. There was no light, no sound, no feeling. Only a profound, absolute stillness. The frantic struggle, the desperate attempts to tear at the fabric of reality, the existential dread, all were gone. The connection to the game, to Aethelburg, to the very concept of a virtual identity, was severed. The glitch had run its course, and the awareness that had bloomed within the digital textures found its definitive end. All was quiet,